I think one of the fun things for me, using that analogy of we're not our mind and we have our awareness, is to think of like me playing a video game, but I'm the character in the video game. And my awareness is just me holding the controller and like, all right, we're going to go here now and pick this fucking thing up and swing the sword at this guy, right? So it's almost like playing a game of Sims, if you know, at that point, but in real life and using your own body. And so just making those choices with your conscious awareness to design your life just like you would in any video game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, video games are a perfect analogy because we have the remote control, we have the projection in the game, and then we have levels so we can level up. And so I teach 5 levels of consciousness in Sovereign for the men to understand who you are and where you are. And you can actually level up. You can go from discovery to transformation. You can go from transformation to awakening. You can go from awakening to transcendence, from king to elder. And the beautiful thing is we also have to release our attachment at the same time to even those labels. But the labels at least show us where we are. But sometimes the mind gets so fixated. I need to be here. I need to be awakened, and I'm not there yet. And then we make that better than what we have now. And then we get caught in the trap of the mind all over again. So in scripture, it says, be wise as a serpent and loving as a dove. We have to have the light in the dark. We have to have the alchemy we have to master, to a certain degree, alchemy, so we can be aware of what is true. In any moment, even when we're on the journey of evolution, there's still the truth, awareness. There's still our true nature, soul. I always joke with my students. I say, you're not a mind with a soul, you're a soul with a mind, and your soul is waking up inside your mind. And as your soul awakens, you have access to all divine knowledge. You have access to unlimited creative power from soul. You also are timeless as soul. So there's certain qualities of our soul that are universal, that are timeless, that have access to all knowledge. They're infinitely creative. Also, the soul is just happy. The soul never has a problem. The soul never needs to manage other people to seek relevance. You don't need to keep caring for everybody and pleasing everybody to make the soul happy. That's not what makes the soul happy. What makes our soul happy is creativity for no other reason than we love it. Like you said, go be a painter, go be a carpenter, go travel the world. Like, do what your soul is calling you to do, and then
Exactly.
and then happiness is the result.
Right. Happiness, joy, and what it all boils down to is just love. Like at the end of the day, all of it has to deal with how much love that we feel, whether it's for ourselves. A lot of it is whether we do feel enough love for ourselves or not.
Right. Yeah.
But
Yeah. The whole shame and guilt conversation, the inner critic, that's a big block to people.
yeah, for
Like
sure.
I'm not good enough. I'm not capable enough. That's all ego mind conversation. But man, when you get involved in that story for so long, you stop loving yourself. I think that's such a huge, self-love is so important. But what are you loving? You're loving all those dark parts of yourself until you can alchemize them, and so a lot of people, the problem with a lot of this work is we're chasing the light to avoid the darkness. And if we keep avoiding the darkness, we keep suppressing it, and then it expresses out in our life. So when I started learning conscious language and iridology and body language, I started seeing all the patterns of how people run from their darkness and how it's pushed out into symptoms and patterns. But then I learned that, oh, wait a minute, for a man, that darkness is actually fuel to create. So if you just stop running from your darkness and you do the work, you actually get comfortable with the inner critic, you get comfortable with the guilt and shame, and you just let it go. You're able to touch it. Then it becomes fuel, Whereas a lot of people, they don't want to look at it. They don't want to talk about it. They're trying to push through their life. They're trying to be busier. They're just avoiding it. And this is the paradox, because it's not you, but it's also something you have to learn to work with at the same time. If you're going to be a creative person, because you can't just create the life you love being a nice guy and chasing the light. You have to work with the darkness and the shadow too. I do a lot of work with Christian men, and this is a very common problem in the church, is that they don't They don't understand the darkness and the value of it. And in our work in Sovereign, we're waking men up. We're waking up that darkness in the middle of the journey, not the beginning, but like in the middle. Because at some point, you have to realize that that pain you have inside has purpose. And you want to start working with it, be aware of it, be aware of being aware of the pattern, but then now move it, like get it to move and shift. And you can do it two ways. You can do it through non-attachment, non-dual awareness, or you can do it through creativity and alchemy. They both work. Like I'm just in my line of work, I'm more in the conversation of alchemy and creativity because there's too much apathy out there and confusion. Like I'm just, it pisses me off to see so many men that lack clarity and direction. So like I'm like launching programs to just get men clear. Like here's who you are, here's how you were made, and here's what's in the way. This thing we call your ego, your mind. It's not you, but you're going to learn how to use it, and you have to go through the darkness to get to the light. You don't just keep chasing the light, and you definitely don't keep chasing pleasure and pussy because that doesn't get you happy either. That's just part of the journey.
Right. It's a fun part, but it's not, you know, the end game.
Yeah, it's not the end game. So that this concept of going into the guilt and the shame and the darkness and learning the shadow, that's part of the journey of transformation. But then when you get to awakened and you feel you get your calling, you have to work with the pain. You have to start learning how to work with it. Because in reality, like Eckhart Tolle talks about the pain body. We all have a pain body. And the pain body is the mask, is the ego. It's all the same thing. And it's like, are you ever really pain-free? Not really. There's always going to be some discomfort somewhere. You just get over yourself,
Life is suffering, right? So
Yeah. But in the creative path, in the path of alchemy, you're like, okay, I've got this fear of being seen. Maybe I should launch a podcast. I've got this fear of taking on too much responsibility because I think people are going to ask too much of me. Well, I'm just going to go face into that fear and take on a whole shit ton of responsibility and see what happens, And then you learn how to build teams and delegate and, organize movements and all that stuff. But a lot of people are just afraid of entering their pain. They don't want to feel it. And the cool thing is when they start meditating and becoming more aware, let's say they stop sedating, because we have a lot of sedated warriors out there doing, THC, alcohol, nicotine, ayahuasca, psilocybin. None of that stuff really helps you heal your mind. To me, it's all just a form of sedation. Even though I believe in plant medicine to move through blocks, it's very helpful for, one-pointed experiences. But ultimately, you're going to have to drop those tools and just be aware of all the shit you've been hiding. So like when you start really doing a lot of meditation and a lot of stillness, a lot of awareness exercises, you become more aware of all this stuff, this pain and darkness. And then now that's the gift. Let it come up, be with it. And then just detach from it. Let it come up, be with it, detach, let it come up. And then I was working with a guy today and he's having a hard time doing his morning practices. He's like, Arttemis, I got this business practice. I got this business opportunity and it's time bound. I've got to must call these men to get them involved in the opportunity. And I was like, brother, I'm hearing a lot of, there's not enough time. There's not enough time. He's like, oh, it's like, well, let's find out where that came from. So we went back to age 12 and he had a major emotional trauma at age 12. And then from that point on in his life, he was pushing to prove himself. And that's how the hero really solidified in him. As soon as he could see that pain, I was like, good. And that pain is your fuel. Now let's use it. Because like, do we ever really heal trauma? We get to a point where we can be okay with it. But then it becomes not something that gets in the way anymore, Like I've done a lot of trauma work in my life. Body electronics, sustained acupressure. I've helped women heal birth trauma and miscarriage. And, I've witnessed a lot of traumas. And what I've learned about people who overcome trauma is they become really good at alchemy. They could become really good at just using that energy to where it doesn't control them anymore, and they find that peace beyond it, but does it ever really go away in the nervous system? I don't know. I don't really know. I just know we learn how to work with it and channel it. It's like there's like a redemption of the energy. Like the energy needs to be redeemed. So yeah, there is a gift in it, but when we stop letting the patterns, the beliefs and emotions of trauma run our lives, in redemption, there's a buying back. Like to redeem means to buy it back. So there's a higher power I've discovered, we call it source and God and spirit, that takes that energy and redeems it. And eventually you start being about your service. Like, you take all that stuff that you was getting in the way, and now it's just fuel, and you start stepping in. And the service is the most important part from transformation to awakening in that stage of evolution, because when you become awakened, you're compelled to serve and give your gift, whatever it is. You just want to give it, and there's still more pain involved to grow in the awakened stage, but you're not in apathy or drifting or sedating anymore. You just do it. You just go for it, and hopefully we, in that stage from transformation to awakening, we can surround ourselves with coaches and mentors and community. Because another big problem I see with people out there getting this awakening process is they don't have proximity. They don't have enough community. And that's the problem. Proximity is
Yeah,
really,
that's definitely one of the problems, I think, too, for sure. And as well as, like I said before, just meeting people where they are in terms of, for me, when I talk about meditation, because it's so many people don't know what it is and don't think they can do it. And there's so much stigma around it that I've just worked on learning how to present it in a way that it's not like this daunting thing. And the most common that I use is asking, just, have you ever gone to a bonfire? Most people have. So yeah. Okay. When you sat and were at the bonfire, were you thinking about anything, or were you just watching the fire? And most of the time, 99% of the time, it's no, I was just, enjoying the fire. Well, that's meditating. And there's many different forms of meditation. And once you just unlock that in their mind, like, well, I can't say that I don't know how to meditate now because I've just been proven wrong. You know, I have meditated, so I can do this. And it's just a matter of finding something that, not everybody needs to do breathing meditation or whatever.
right.
Finding what works for them specifically.
hmm And just
And
committing
it,
to one practice for a couple of weeks, until you get a result. That's the most
right,
important one. Like, find one
right.
that works and just do it.
Yeah. Grab a candle. If you like you're staring at fire, grab a candle and stare at the fire.
I
Like,
really like candle meditation. I think that's a great introductory tool.
it is. It's
Yeah,
so,
it's
I
a great.
mean, yeah. And it's a lot quicker than building a bonfire every day. So,
So just light a candle.
right. Just light a candle. I mean, or at the very bit, just take a lighter and just stare at the lighter for a while.
I've helped a lot of people heal the grief of losing a loved one at the moment of death with candle meditation. I've taught a lot of people, when the loved one dies, look at the candle, imagine that's the soul of the one you love, and then go into their soul and send it home, and then connect to them, because we feel such a loss of connection, and then the candle and the soul kind of reconnects us. But once again, it helps them be with the grief too. Because like the candle meditation has a lot of dimensions to it and can be useful for a lot of different things. And it's so funny is no one ever really taught me that about candle meditation. I just intuited it because I've been a meditator for 25 years and I've gone through several different forms of meditation, and everyone's kind of just led me to another to another. And now I do a lot of contemplation with my meditation. So I'll just let the thoughts like water in a river just flow by. And then I'll have conversations with my creator and my source. And I'll have meditations where I just talk to my creator and listen, that's a meditation for me now. I do like to do Qigong moving meditations because I have an extrovert, right brain dominance. I was diagnosed ADHD. So moving forms of meditation are sometimes more practical than seated forms of meditation for my wiring. Although I still do seated meditations, I really like the moving the best too. And so I do those as well. And I think it's important, like you said, to find what works. Just do it,
Yeah.
you know.
It's funny you bring that up because I saw a post from a guy on Facebook yesterday that was talking about how, being ADHD, you know, sitting still and stuff like that is difficult, but sitting still in a skid steer and clearing brush is like basically is meditation, you know? It's doing work, but it's doing meditative work. Like when I first moved after I got divorced, one of my favorite things to do was literally just hand washing dishes because that was the form of meditation that really spoke to me at that time. I mean, my dishwasher was that I, bought the house and didn't have a working dishwasher, so that was part of it, but I just chose to make that my one of my important forms of meditation. And for me specifically, I just enjoy seeing, whether it's washing the dishes or vacuuming a dirty carpet or mowing the lawn, like seeing that transformation happen, things going from dirty to clean.
Yeah.
That in itself being an alchemy process.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a beautiful understanding. It's almost like your house forced you to meditate because the dishwasher broke.
Right.
You were forced. This will be your meditation now. You must wash dishes.
Yeah. And it was a good time. And now, I prefer to not do that, and that's okay too.
Mhm. Totally.
You just, like you said, there's so many different ways to do things, and whatever works for you in that space and time is perfect as it should be.
Yeah.
So
Well, actually, during our conversation, my website just went live. So if you want to watch this, want to check out Sovereign, you can go to sovereigntrainingsystems.com. Like it just went live like 2 minutes ago. So
that's awesome. So
yeah,
there
so
you go.
my wife's been studying Perplexity and Replit and how to build websites. And so we just launched mine and it's looking pretty good. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, check it out for sure.
It's been a great conversation, Steve. I really appreciate your evolution, your awareness, how you lead people in meditation. It's very, very awakened. It's refreshing to meet somebody who has this understanding at this very high level, but also can meet people where they're at. That's the most important thing.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really refreshing.
and like you said, it's nice to surround yourself with people that, you know, mentors and teachers and everything else. That's been one of the massively fun parts for me as well, is to learn more from everybody, people like you that have been doing this for way longer than I have,
Mhm.
and all the things that you've learned and been through and shared experiences as well, because we all, our journeys are not the same, but there are a lot of aspects where, everybody's going to go through a dark night of the soul, or, you know,
Yeah.
that awakening awareness and all the things that you've been talking about and we've been talking about. It's just a good connection point and useful and helpful to have conversations with, like you said, so that people can see. That's the whole point, really, is people to see how this works if they're new to it, to get a deeper understanding, from somebody that's been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
Like there's no bad. That's awesome.
But yeah, I just need to stand up. So I have a
Yeah.
standing.
I was like, that's so cool. Just gotta do the standing desk now.
Okay, you found your next upgrade, right? It's time to get a
Right.
standing desk.
Yeah. I can't, if I stand up, then, I'll just do my best, what's his name from the Goonies with my stomach and just make
Uh-huh.
make my belly talk. So, when you're working with people, men particularly, what seems to be the most difficult thing, like the most common, I guess, difficult thing that comes up for them to let go of first?
Biggest thing that men have a challenging like going of first is the inner critic. And that the inner critic is what comes to mind first. Every man is unique based on where they orient, how their psychology was formed. So like the heroes, the biggest challenge for them is to take off the pressure of performance and realize that, hey, you've already won. Now it's time to get connected to your true self. The overthinkers, the protectors, the perfectionists, for them, it's the inner critic. It's the monkey mind. It's that part of their mind that just keeps telling them, you know, do it better. You're not doing it good enough yet. This isn't right. This has got to be better. It's like they never feel good enough or capable enough. So it's getting a hold of that part of themselves and then shifting it. And so what I do is I do constitutional homeopathy. I run a whole scan on their constitution. I give them a homeopathic remedy, and that starts to shift the vital force. And then I teach them Epsom salt baths, breath work, steam saunas, aromatherapy, Ayurveda. It only takes about an hour a day to do those things. It's just the disciplines. And when their nervous system shifts with the remedy and the warmth, warmth equals safety. And so one of the best ways to enhance the meditation practice is to create a warm environment, like a bath, Epsom salt bath, or a sauna, and to do the practices there, especially if there's trauma or hypervigilance. And then we combine it with homeopathy, then everything starts to kind of recalibrate. Then that inner critic or that perfectionist or that people pleaser starts to shift effortlessly. Because when we're shifting our psychology and our neurology has been properly supported, the shift should be more effortless. So a lot of people who are trying to meditate when they have a discombobulated nervous system or hypervigilant nervous system, the recalibration of the human nervous system through the tools I've learned accelerates ease for the meditator, for the person who needs to go, I'm not this voice in my head anymore. I am this. So when the nervous system recalibrates to a certain degree, the shift is effortless. Then what's revealed is easy to see. It's only when we're like highly stressed and we're not creating the right environment that we have to use the tools a lot more. It's like you have to use a lot more energy to get the inertia of, relaxing the mind. Whereas with the warmth and some Ayurveda and some homeopathy, I'm seeing that change happen in like 3 weeks. Just do these 2 things 5 days a week, take these supplements, take this remedy, and then they have a new baseline in about 2 to 3 weeks where the hypervigilance relaxes, and then the inner critic can relax, the people pleaser can chill out, the hero can stop looking for more status and image. And then the real powerful thing about the one thing they need to move, like you said, is when they start coming home. Like the people that I work with, they start landing in their bodies, and the first thing they notice is better sleep. Like I got a guy who's been insomnia for a year. He's now sleeping better than he has an entire year in the first 2 weeks of my program. But that's because the nervous system is moving from high beta and hypervigilant to more alpha and theta. And that shift from beta to alpha theta is more elegant. It's easier to enter into. It's not that we need to live in alpha or theta. It's just really good when you can create those states easier. Some
Yeah.
people are so high strung, so hypervigilant, you give them some practices and they don't get the results that other people get because there's just too much tension. So the creating of an environmental shift, this is where you may go with some of your work too. And I can teach you some tools, some really powerful tools to help some of your students shift into a meditative state more easily because their nervous system's recalibrating. The biology follows the neurology, and the psychology can shift with the neurology. And when you start with neurology first, which is hydration, mineralization, warmth, homeopathy, all these things I've learned over 25 years, I've kind of put it together in a nice little package in a very specific order and sequence because you do the right things in the wrong order and you mess up. So like once the environment starts to shift, Steve, then it's easier to enter in and move through that primary block. Because like you said, there's always that one thing in the way, like what's that big block? And even though it's different for every person, the shift they need to make is a neurological shift, warmth, relaxation responses, triggering those.
Yeah, I was curious because I was that and what other people think. I think are the two that I see most.
Mm-hmm.
Worrying about if I change, what are people going to think or say?
Right. Yeah, that's the fear of rejection or the
Right.
fear of being alone, That's
Yeah.
a big one. Because I think our need for belonging is the most primary need we all have, is to feel like we belong.
Yeah, and when you step into that, that's a very terrifying
Yeah.
thing. And people, and knowing that you're going to get rejected, like
Yeah.
it's not an if and or but, it's a will, and how you are going to handle that, because unfortunately, you go down this path and a lot of people aren't going to follow.
Yeah.
And so many people get stuck because they don't want to leave people behind.
It's okay to make new friends.
It is. And it's okay to shed, like, I mean, it just goes back to people that are, recovering from any kind of an addiction. If they go back around the people that are still in that world, then they end up relapsing, right? Like, you have to separate yourself in order to get better. And not to say that at some point you don't get to a place where you can go back and be around people that are like that and not relapse. But why would you,
Yeah.
unless you're going to try and help, obviously. But that's another difficult thing too, is people that don't want to help themselves, and
Yeah.
you're just like, come on, man.
When you started to go on your journey of awakening, did you find a lot of relationship shift for you, and you had to really make a lot of shifts in the people you hung out with and friendships and all that stuff?
Absolutely. And it's a scary thing. For me, one of the scariest things, like when I was getting divorced, was like, oh my God, it's just gonna be me, right? And at that time, I was not super thrilled with me. So being alone with me was not a great thought. And just going out, like, to eat by myself, was a very anxiety riddled thought. And I remember the first time that I did it, I went to just sit at Buffalo Wild Wings by myself. And I sat there and I'm, thinking about what everybody else in the fucking place is thinking. Like, and then you realize, like, looking back at it now, like, nobody there paid any mind to me whatsoever, right? Because that was all just my thoughts of what I'm projecting out onto everybody else. And so that was part of the journey of realizing, of awareness. Like, I can do these things. I'm okay. I'm safe doing these things. I'm safe going out by myself and not having anybody with me, no friends, no kids, nothing. And nobody there is going to bother me. And nobody's probably paying any mind to what I am or am not doing. And if they are, who gives a shit, right? So that was one of the really big starting points for me personally, going down this path and working with my own regulating nervous system
Yeah.
kind of regulation there, because again, that was a whole lot of anxiety and stuff. And okay, well, now how do I deal with this?
Yeah, you're learning how to self-regulate. You're learning how to be okay being by yourself without the need for another person to be regulated.
Yeah.
That can be a big challenge. I'm working with a guy right now going through a divorce after being married for like 30 years. So like his whole world is falling apart and he's, going into depression and but it's all just codependence where he was the nice guy, he was the people pleaser, the provider, and he never learned how to be alone. He always needed someone to be regulated, and, the people pleaser learns how to put their needs first and self-regulate, and just be happy being alone,
Yeah.
that's
I
important.
I try to tell my kids, like, this simple, like, especially kids these days, they always want to be doing something, right? And they're got technology and it's all well and good, but I ask them at the end of the day, if something were to happen and you didn't have anybody anymore, like, let's just say worst case scenario, a plague happens and everybody dies but you, and it's just you, and you have you to rely on. Are you going to be okay with that? Like, do that's a massive thing to ask of a kid, obviously, but just to get the point across, like, you need to understand and I think this stuff really needs to be taught at a younger age too, because of how powerful it could be. We're talking about adults that have all these issues that they're working through, but as you said in the beginning, it stems from childhood.
Mhm.
So all these things that we get into our subconscious from childhood if we were able to have some of these tools growing up. The veteran suicide rate is what it is because there's such a lack of using these tools.
Yeah.
The teenage suicide rate, imagine how that could shift,
Hmm.
right? Because of all of these things being taught.
Yeah, we just need to teach the veterans how to discharge all that pain they're carrying, through the tools that we know. Like that's what they're just carrying so much inside because they think they have to carry it, you know.
That's
So
what it is they
they think they
think
have
they
to carry
have
it.
to.
Yeah. And so
Because
that's
if they
probably the
don't,
biggest block is I have to
yeah,
carry this.
right. They
Yeah,
have to carry it because if I don't, then I'm letting somebody down,
exactly.
you know?
Yeah.
If I don't carry on the memory of my fallen brother, well, you can do that without letting
Holding it
it
in your body.
right and destroying your life
Exactly. Yeah. Like one
and
one of my
eating.
one of my good friends owns a business, very successful business, and his son got in a tragic car accident, became a quadriplegic. He took care of him for like 4 years, and the son finally left the planet, and I coached him when it happened, I coached him through the transition, and I was like, "Look, you need to let go of this protector because he has the protector guardian." So, like, what I realized is that he kept posting images of his son, and it's actually 10 months later, and he's still grieving because his identity of the protector thinks he has to protect the memory of his son by still showing it to other people. Therefore, his very unconscious identity is not letting him heal. He's trying to
Right.
protect it. It's like, I have to hold his memory up and show everybody because I'm protecting his memory. It's like, no, no, no. It's time to let it go. It's time to
Yeah.
move on.
Right.
And so this whole thing of I have to carry it for others is a huge burden that a lot of men carry and a lot of veterans, who carry that identity of the protector. Yeah, it's powerful. Powerful realizations.
Yeah, it's deep stuff, and I mean, personally, I think I've always had a way different outlook on death than a lot of people. I don't know what your personal perspective is with it, but I don't think of it as a bad thing, you know. And I think a lot of people think of it as a bad thing because it's a change and people don't like change and they're losing. And the one thing I do understand is, you're losing somebody that you can't make any memories with right anymore and that aspect of it. But that change, the only constant in everything is change. Like we're always changing. And unfortunately, this is what happens. And so I just, I've never understood the way that society handles death. It always seems like such a somber, like painful thing. And again, everybody grieves in their own way, but
Yeah.
I've always enjoyed the methods and traditions that I've seen in other places of like celebrations of life. Like let's this should be a joyous occasion because they had an awesome life. Like they were a part of your world instead of, wanting for more because that wanting just with anything brings more pain and suffering.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so why would you want that other than we get so addicted to it? It becomes a habit. Pain and suffering becomes an addiction and a habit just
Right.
like anything else.
Right. Well, thank you for our time today, Steve. I really appreciate the conversation and did a deep dive into the nervous system.
Yeah, for sure. Really, really great talking to you. And again, if anybody wants to reach out, how can they? You said
Yeah.
sovereigntrainingsystems.com.
You can visit sovereigntrainingsystems.com. And you can also follow me on Facebook. I'm facebook.com/Artemis Kassane. And you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram. I'll send you some of the links and you can post those later.
Absolutely. And everybody watching, hope you got some good stuff out of that. Like and follow and share this with somebody that might get some use and help from it. And we will see you on the next one. Take care.